Good, happy Sunday evening, August 22nd, 2021. I'm Riley King. Welcome to this Sunday evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Sunday evening, so let's begin. First up, we're going to begin with a check of the weather. Tropical storm Henri continues to travel northwest, heaviest rain to the west of the storm. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
We were still at work. We started getting these notifications from Ring. Two guys trying to break in. I hit the siren on my alarm.
Hello everyone, meteorologist Mike Haddad here in the Stormwatch 9 Weather Center on a breezy and in some spots damp Sunday as we continue to track Tropical Storm Henri moving northwest right through the eastern part of Connecticut right now in terms of the center. But as we talk about time and time again, you really have to look around the center, at least 50, 80, 100 miles to find where a lot of the major impacts are. And typically on the western side of the storm is where you find the heaviest of the rain, and that's indeed where it is setting up shop right now and will through the course of this Sunday evening and into early tomorrow morning. Eventually, as you can see on our track, the motion northwest stops during the pre-dawn hours tomorrow morning, and then Tropical Depression Henri moves through slowly tomorrow and tomorrow evening. Now, as that begins to move in, that will cause extra lift in the atmosphere and it will bring out some downpours, scattered storms, and that may result in some flooding in some spots, although it's just too tough to call exactly where those bands will set up as the depression moves through during tomorrow and tomorrow evening. Then it's gone by daybreak on your Tuesday. So in terms of impacts, again, wind, not a major concern, not even a moderate concern here in the Granite State, just a minor aggravation with 20 to 30 mile per hour breezes from time to time, maybe slightly higher in the higher terrain of the Monadnock region and right along the coast. Speaking of which, high waves continue to be a medium concern, medium impact, and there is a high surf advisory there through the course of the early morning hours on Monday. In terms of a flood threat along the coast, minor flooding not out of the question, centered around the high tide that kicks in later on tonight near the midnight hour. So the other medium impacts will be heavy rain and the potential for some flooding in spots, certainly not widespread during the day on Monday. A very low chance of some minor flooding issues, mostly in the Monadnock region for tonight, just because the tropical heavy rain that's off to our south and west trying to build back up towards Cheshire County, but again, I'm not anticipating enough rain to create any major threat there. The general flood watch, and this is different from a flash flood watch in that it takes several hours, sometimes 6, 12, 18 hours for rain to fill in and cause some of the rivers to swell up above flood stage. So we'll be watching for a concern for that mostly tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. We've seen that played out many times before. The only trick will be if some of the tropical bands of rain that move back in tomorrow set up shop over one spot for a couple of hours, and that could lead to some areas getting well over 2, 3, even 4 inches of rain. So that is definitely on the table. Again, wind threat, gone. Coastal flooding, minor. It's just a focus on the bands of showers. And again, what's falling out there through the afternoon and evening, not much of an issue, except possibly into Cheshire County as some of this banning of the rain in the eastern part of the concern area where all the flash flooding is happening tries to back at Cheshire County. But other than that, the main focus for torrential heavy rain for the balance of Sunday into Sunday night will be southwest of Cheshire County for the most part, with a little bit feeding up into Keene and Peterborough and Point South. So you'll see it on Futurecast, occasional showers on and off through the night, a couple of downpours, most of it through about the midnight hour, and then just a scattering of light showers on average to follow. The exception could be in the Monadnock region. And then tomorrow we'll watch Tropical Depression Henri move back through. Keep in mind the westerly flow in the jet stream is going to eventually kick this thing out of here by early Tuesday morning. But as it moves through tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening, that's when we could actually see the greatest impact from Henri due to some tropical downpours and a slight chance of a couple of severe thunderstorms. So we'll be watching out for that with highs generally in the 70s. And then by later Monday night, early on Tuesday morning, it all goes by the boards. Again, the winds 15 to 30 miles per hour on average during today, tonight, into the day tomorrow. It's generally at about 10 to 20 out of the south and the southwest. Beyond that, it's all about hazy sun, some warmth and humidity. We're up near 90 for Tuesday afternoon and especially Wednesday and Thursday with a chance of a late day storm.
My name is Shannon Klingman, and I'm a baking enthusiast, a gardener, an aspiring beekeeper, a wife, mother.
Okay, and there you go on that weather forecast for this evening from meteorologist Mike Haddad. Thank you for that weather forecast. Governor Chris Sununu says officials are monitoring southwestern New Hampshire coastlines for possible flooding. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Well, state officials are keeping a close eye on now Tropical Storm Henri as it approaches landfall here in the Northeast. Joining us now live on the phone is Governor Chris Sununu. Good morning, Governor.
Good morning. How we doing?
We're doing well, and thanks for joining us on a Sunday morning. Even though the storm is weakening, what are your concerns here for folks in New Hampshire?
Well, we've been tracking this thing for a couple of days, and I think some of the bigger concerns are around where it's really going to go, right? I mean, this is taking a left, taking a right. It's kind of wiggling up the coast. The good news is that because it's over the weekend, I think a lot of folks have been staying informed. They know that there is a lot of possibilities for localized flooding, some wind, for some potential power outages. So we feel pretty confident that the citizens as a whole have been fairly informed. But what this really is going to mean for specifically the southern part of the state is a little bit unknown. And specifically over on the seacoast, we're really watching some of that potential tidal surge coming in both in later today, Monday, and even into Tuesday with some of the localized flooding on the seacoast, and trying to remind folks to minimize beach activity and boating and all of those sorts of things, but also the localized flooding that'll come into those roadways, into those homes along the seacoast. That's one of the more specific areas we're watching right now. But it has been downgraded. That's good news. And we have folks standing by if there's power outages. We are prepared. We've been watching this fairly closely. So we're just going to keep tracking it like everybody else and just make sure that all the local emergency management coordinators know what we know as quickly as we can so we can respond.
And we are expected to get some heavy rain here in New Hampshire. Some parts of the state, the Monadnock region in particular, has already been very damaged by a lot of rain. Is there a particular concern there?
Absolutely. So we put up, because of the storms that hit us specifically in early and mid-July, we had to do some buffering. A lot of those repairs are not permanent. They are kind of temporary repairs. We already have some road closures that we've been working with. And we don't want those to erode anymore, really. So we just have specific groups out there, DOT working with those areas in Ackworth and towns like that, just to make sure that it doesn't get any worse. And if it does, we are prepared. So again, we know where those hot spots are, so to say, so we can keep an eye on them. There's maybe a dozen locations that we know do have to be more permanently fixed from the previous storms, and we'll stay right on top of those as well.
All right, Governor Chris Sununu joining us on the phone this morning talking about concerns about Henri. Thank you very much.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. New Hampshire Emergency Management Center Director discusses preparations for impact from Henri. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
We made USAA insurance for renters who make the most of their space and money.
As we track Henri, New Hampshire Emergency Management is working around the clock to help Granite Staters stay safe. The Emergency Operations Center will be opening today at noon. And we're joined now by the Director of New Hampshire Emergency Management, Jennifer Harper. Thanks for joining us this morning. And Jennifer, we did speak earlier today with the National Hurricane Center. They say that we could get some incredible amounts of rain in some spots, maybe 2 inches.
Good morning, thank you. We are watching this storm very closely, as everybody else has been, and we are going to open the State Emergency Operations Center at noontime today. Those rains could impact some communities that have been impacted by storms earlier in July. So we're really taking this seriously and urge our residents to also take this seriously.
Our weather team says that rain is probably going to be the biggest issue, but again, as you mentioned, we have so many areas that are kind of over-soaked, and if we have any winds, we could have some trees down, couldn't we?
Exactly. So the ground is saturated, although, the water levels have come down a bit in the lakes and streams. But flash flooding is certainly something that we're watching very closely with this as those bands come through New Hampshire in those soaked areas already. You can see some trees come down with some power outages.
And Jennifer, what is your greatest concern with this storm that's headed our way?
So I think the greatest concern is that although it's been downgraded to a tropical storm, that people just take it seriously and prepare for it, and maybe some outages, some rains, flooding, and certainly rip currents along the shoreline. It's kind of cool to be out there along the shoreline, but it's pretty dangerous. Hikers and campers should pay attention to the weather as well, so that we don't have to do rescues and some pretty significant rainfalls.
All right, Jennifer Harper with New Hampshire Emergency Management, thanks for joining us. And stick with us on WMUR TV and also online throughout the day for the latest on Henri. We'll have hourly updates right here with the current track and potential impact on New Hampshire.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. National Hurricane Center Director focuses on New Hampshire impacts, potential for flooding, rain, and tree damage. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Do you have some breaking news on this? The status of this storm has changed just in the last few minutes. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've adjusted this to a tropical storm, and it's just such a big thing. We got to just make sure everybody realizes no such thing as just a tropical storm. We play around with these winds 5-10 miles an hour in either direction, but as you all were mentioning, look at this rainfall. Already seeing some of these bands get close to Boston and moving into your area throughout the morning, and with time continuing to move to your area. Look at this forecast. I think this is something that we have to consider, this slowdown. We get inland over Massachusetts and then slowing down around New Hampshire, and that's going to cause such an incredible amount of rainfall. So everybody just has to be ready for those tropical rains and the flooding.
How slow of a storm are we talking about here, and how much rain are we talking about from this tropical storm?
Yeah, they always slow down when they make that turn. So as it makes that turn, slowing down to, we're going to see, 5-10 mile an hour motion as it starts to make this turn. So that's going to cause, if you look at New Hampshire, back even into Vermont, these green areas are 2 to 4 inches of rain. But what happens is you have these bands set up, and some areas could get 6, maybe even more inches of rain in just some isolated areas. That's where you're going to have some of your problems because the soil's so saturated in so many areas.
Of course, one of the big concerns right now are the heavy winds. Will we see those winds when it reaches New Hampshire as it makes its way across land?
Yeah, the winds are going to come down quite a bit, and it's interesting with a situation like this. Once you get inland, the winds are going to come down pretty rapidly. But the thing is, with saturated soil and you get these tropical rains, even a gust to 25, 30 miles an hour could still knock down some trees in a situation with saturated soil. So just got to watch out for that, and just falling trees, falling limbs, and the flooding is going to be some of the bigger impacts for you all.
All right, Ken Graham from the National Weather Center, National Hurricane Center, I should say, thank you very much.
It's time to help people customize and save with Liberty Mutual.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. State says it's in constant communication with cities, towns as Henri approaches. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Aaron, right now here in Peterborough, it's a very peaceful scene. Earlier this morning, we did have some intermittent rainfall coming down. Now, New Hampshire Emergency Management and Homeland Security officials are on standby, bracing for the impact of Henri when it arrives here in New Hampshire. At the top of the list of their concerns, flooding and power outages, as the storm is expected to pack a serious punch to areas that have already been hit hard this morning. Now, emergency officials are urging Granite Staters to get ahead of the game by preparing early. That means packing emergency kits with supplies like flashlights and batteries, along with firing up generators and sump pumps in case they're needed.
Whether it's an indirect or a direct hit, there's still going to be some heavy winds as long as strong rains. And we want to make sure that people are prepared ahead of the storm, expecting a long duration storm. And so it could continue into Tuesday. They were originally saying Sunday into Monday, but we need to be prepared that it could last until Tuesday.
Now, the department tells News 9 they are in constant contact with communities to make sure they have the needed resources as the storm approaches. And ahead in our next half hour, we'll hear from the chief of the Peterborough Fire Department about what his biggest concern is for this area that's already been saturated with the previous storms last month and earlier this month as well. Reporting live in Peterborough, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And be sure to stay with the Riley King Network for On Ray updates. Tracking on Ray. We will keep you updated throughout the evening. Woman arrested after barricading herself inside home. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Well, new from overnight, Hudson police responded to reports of a break-in, but ended up arresting the person living there. Just after 4:30 yesterday, Hudson PD responded to 177 Bush Hill Road. Upon arrival, police say they heard gunshots on the property. They later found out that 55-year-old Eleanor Wing had barricaded herself inside. After a lengthy negotiation, Wing was taken into custody without incident. She faces reckless conduct charges.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. AG's office arrests a New Jersey man in connection with the death of 2 men in Bedford. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Breaking news just into our newsroom. A New Jersey man is now facing second-degree murder charge for the killing of 2 men in Bedford. State officials responded to the Country Inn and Suites on South River Road last night. One man was found in the lobby of the hotel, another in a room. 42-year-old Theodore Lucky is also charged with 3 counts of being a felon in possession of a deadly weapon.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. And be sure to stay with us for updates on Ray. Have a great night, everyone. Good night and goodbye.